What if I told you that thousands of years before Europeans decided to improve everyone else's way of doing things, people in Mesoamerica were already tracking time more accurately than medieval Europe, while also inventing writing, numbers, and calendars that still blow historians' minds today? And no, this wasn't just counting rocks and carving doodles. We're talking cosmic math, calendars that sync with the stars, and writing so beautiful it was basically fine art. Oh, and all of it kicked off with a civilization you probably know by name, but not by superpowers: the Olmecs. Picture this. It's about 1200 BCE. You're an Olmec priest astronomer, standing on top of a giant earthen pyramid, staring at the horizon. You've got a jaguar mask on, you smell faintly of copal incense, and you are seriously into knowing when to plant corn. But you can't just guess. You need a way to track the days. And you're not satisfied with, sometime after the rainy season. No, you want the exact day, the exact position of the sun, and preferably a backup plan in case the gods get moody. So you and your fellow geniuses start building a system of symbols, numbers, and cosmic cycles. And that's how the spark of Mesoamerican science is lit. The birth of writing in Mesoamerica. The Olmecs didn't leave us novels or shopping lists, but they did leave us some of the earliest writing in the Americas, symbols carved into stone and jade, combining ideograms, pictures for whole ideas, with phonograms, symbols for sounds. Imagine an emoji system where the smiley face doesn't just mean happy, but could also be part of the word sunrise. These weren't just random marks. They were an attempt to capture speech, history, and ritual in a permanent form. If you wanted to brag about your king's great victory or mark the day a sacred ceremony took place, this was how you did it. Over centuries, these early forms evolved, inspiring later systems like the Maya glyphs, arguably the most complex writing in the ancient Americas. The Maya system was part logographic, part syllabic, and part... How did they even keep track of this many symbols without a printing press? The average Maya scribe had to know hundreds of symbols and their variants. They could mix and match them in flexible ways, which made their writing adaptable, but also meant deciphering it centuries later was basically the Indiana Jones version of Wordle. Scribes weren't just literate, they were artists. Every glyph was a mini masterpiece, painted on codices, carved into stone stele, and even painted on ceramics. The way they arranged symbols could be decorative and functional at the same time. In some cases, they even used glyph variants that looked like little human or animal heads instead of standard symbols, because apparently, writing your math homework with cartoon faces was totally acceptable if you were a Maya scribe. Other cultures, like the Zapotecs and Aztecs, had their own scripts. The Zapotecs used an early form of writing around 500 BCE, mostly for recording names and calendar dates. The Aztecs leaned heavily on pictographic records, part writing, part visual storytelling. But no one reached the same level of complexity as the Maya, counting like a Mesoamerican mathematician. Here's where things get spicy. Numbers. Forget base 10. The Maya and other Mesoamerican cultures used base 20. Probably because you've got 20 fingers and toes, and why stop at hands when feet are right there? They wrote numbers using dots, 0 and 1 each, and bars, 5 each. So 3 bars and 4 dots, that's 19. Simple, elegant, and way easier to carve into stone than Roman numerals. And get this, they invented zero. That's right, they had a functional symbol for zero centuries before Europe did. It looked a bit like a shell. And it wasn't just a placeholder. It was a true mathematical zero, allowing them to do complex calculations and track dates in their long count calendar. Europe wouldn't fully embrace zero until the Renaissance. And even then, some people thought it was suspicious because apparently the idea of nothing was too weird. Meanwhile, the Maya were happily writing dates like 912 2.0.16 without having an existential crisis. They even had two different number systems, a straightforward one for everyday stuff like trade and taxes, and a more elaborate one for their sacred calendars, which had to fit perfectly into their astronomical observations. This wasn't just math, it was math with cosmic consequences. Calendars, where math meets the cosmos. If you think the Gregorian calendar is neat, buckle up. Mesoamerican timekeeping was next level. The 260-day ritual calendar, Tzolk'in in Maya, was made by cycling 20-day names with 13 numbers. Each day name had a meaning: jaguar, storm, corn, death, and each was tied to religious significance. Why 260 days? Theories include it's the length of human pregnancy, the maize growth cycle, or the sun's position in the sky. Basically, it was their cosmic multi-tool. The 365-day solar calendar, Hab, was used for agricultural and seasonal planning. It had 18 months of 20 days each, plus a weird 5-day period at the end called Wayeb, which was considered unlucky. You didn't want to start a war or get married during Wayeb unless you were a gambler. Combine them and you get the calendar round, a 52-year cycle before the same combination repeats. If you live to see your calendar round birthday, congratulations, you were old and probably a local legend. Then there's the long count calendar, used to track enormous spans of time. It could record dates thousands of years in the past or future using units like baktuns, about 394 years. This is the calendar that sparked all those 2012 end-of-the-world headlines. Except the Maya never said it was the end of the world, just the end of one cycle and the start of another. The Maya and their neighbors didn't see time as a straight line. It was circular. History repeated itself in predictable ways, and the key to the future was found in the past. That's a philosophy some modern stockbrokers might want to borrow. Influence across the Americas. The Olmecs probably spread the 260-day calendar across Mesoamerica. You can see traces of it in early Zapotec inscriptions, in Teotihuacan's urban planning, and even in Aztec rituals, centuries later. While the specific glyphs and scripts didn't reach the Andes, the idea of symbolic record-keeping and astronomical tracking was widespread. In the Andes, the Inca didn't have a written script like the Maya, but they had quipu, knotted cords, used for record-keeping, and possibly even storytelling. Their calendars were based on the movement of the sun and moon, with elaborate festivals marking key dates. Different tools, same human obsession, keeping time in sync with the cosmos. Trade routes, pilgrimages, and political marriages helped spread ideas. And while Mesoamerica and the Andes developed independently, they were part of a broader pattern. Humanity everywhere wants to understand, measure, and record the passage of time. Then Europe showed up. Fast forward to the 1500s. Spanish conquistadors arrive. See these elaborate systems of writing, math, and timekeeping, and proceed to dismantle them. Why? Two big reasons. They were tied to indigenous religion, which Spain wanted to replace with Christianity. The Spanish couldn't read them, and if history has taught us anything, it's that colonizers are suspicious of things they don't understand. Codices were burned by the thousands. Priests outlawed the old calendars. Timekeeping was restructured around Christian feast days. The long count, gone. The Tzolk'in, replaced by saints' days. But these traditions didn't vanish. In remote villages in Mexico and Guatemala, daykeepers still track the 260-day cycle, blending it with the Christian calendar. Farmers still watch the stars for planting dates. And some modern Maya activists are reviving the glyphs as part of cultural heritage. So next time someone tells you ancient civilizations were primitive, just remember, while medieval Europeans were still debating whether zero was sorcery, Mesoamerican mathematicians were predicting eclipses, scheduling harvests to the exact day, and writing history in a language that doubled as fine art. If that's primitive, then my smartphone is a rock with a flashlight app. Like and follow for more history not found in textbooks.